Kakadosh Boker Tov. We're continuing in the halachot of Adlakat Nerot, Siman Samech Gimel. A woman that she lights candles for Shabbat. So Licha Techila, obviously she should pray Mincha before lighting the candles. Now if she cannot pray Mincha before lighting the candles, she's allowed to do it afterwards. And this will even be according to the minhag of the Ashkenazim. But now let's try to understand what's exactly going on. What is the problem? What would be the problem? So the Magen Avraham brings down that a woman that lights the candle, she should pray Mincha first. And that's what's brought down in a lot of the Acharonim, the Liyarabah, the Pri Megadim, Shulchan Aruch Graz, Chayadam. There's a lot of even the Ben Ish Chai brings this down, the Mishabra, Kavachaim. They all bring down the same thing. First say Mincha, and then you're going to light the candles for Shabbat. The obvious reason is because once you're going to come and light the candles of Shabbat, if you accept upon yourself Shabbat, so now you can't say Mincha anymore. Because if you already said Mincha, so now that's it. If you already lit the candles, it's already Shabbat. Once it's already Shabbat, you can't say Mincha. And if you're still saying Mincha, that means it's still not Shabbat. So here he brings down, but the Magen Avraham was only speaking about Lechatechila, right, that you want to start lighting the candles. But what about in the B'diavad situation? So it's actually brought down in the Acharonim, and this is also brought down in the Mishnah Berurah and other poskim as well, that B'diavad, if a person already came and they lit the candles, so then she would have to say Arvit twice, which means she cannot say Mincha, even B'diavad, meaning even if it's already post-factum, or that she didn't have the time, she would actually do two Arvits. However, though here, the Halacha Berurah wants to argue, and he wants to say as follows. He says, the Shuter Tzvi brings down that the Magen Avraham was only Lechatechila, but B'diavad, she could still say Mincha afterwards. And he says it's only when the Kahal said Barechu with the Tzibur, there you're not allowed to come and say Mincha afterwards, because once you answer Barechu, you have Kiddushat Shabbat. But if you're doing Kabbalat Shabbat biyachid, here, even if you're going to tell me again, according to the Sfaradim, they do not accept upon themselves Shabbat by Adlakat Nerot. So according to Sfaradim, there's no problem. Why? She comes and she has in mind that she's going to pray Mincha afterwards. She doesn't accept upon herself Shabbat, so then there's no problem. But what happens if it's automatic that it's accepting upon herself Shabbat? For example, the minhag, the bahaga, the Ashkenazim, or for example, she does accept upon herself Shabbat. So in such a case, it's called Kabbalat Shabbat of a Yachid. So he comes and he says, in such a case, you're allowed to pray right Mincha afterwards. And he says, only Milacha you're not allowed to do, but you're still allowed to pray afterwards. And this applies, says the Pri Megadim, even if it's going to be that the Rova Tzibur accepted upon themselves the Shabbat. You remember we mentioned a few days ago that we are drawn after Rova Tzibur. Meaning, let's say here, everybody in Surfside, every single Bet Knesset would do early Shabbat. We're taking Surfside, we're taking it in the middle of France and in Europe, that anyway Plaga Mincha is already at 9:30, right, or things like that, or at 9 o'clock, and the nightfall, right, is going to be at 10 o'clock now in the summer, 10:20. So now everyone does early. So if everyone does early, I'm automatically obligated to do early. I'm coming home late. Listen, I'm sorry, you are obligated to go after the tzibur. But that we said is only to do with melacha, not to do with tefillah. Which means even though I'm obligated now to cease from melacha, I'm not allowed to work anymore, because now since the majority of the tzibur, they accepted upon themselves Shabbat, I'm obligated to as well, but I'm not obligated to take on the Shabbat to do with tefillah, which means that I'm still able to come and pray mincha, even though they already accepted upon themselves Shabbat, and they're already by the Amidah Varvit, and that's all the Kehilot. Remember, it has to be the Rova Tzibur, which means that all the Beit Knesset in the area have to do the same thing. I would still be able to pray afterwards, because to do a tefillah, I'm not going after the majority of them. And that's what a lot of Acharonim actually come and they bring down. Then he continues going, and basically, right, to make a very long story short, because there's obviously a lot of different shitot, and where we're going, he does say that it's better that a woman should make a tanai, that she's going to come and pray mincha after the lakat nerot, right? And a man that's going to light the candles, even lechatechila, he's allowed to do it, because a man, even for the Ashkenazim, does not accept upon himself Shabbat when he comes and he lights the candles. So for example, a person's wife is out of town, and he's at home by himself, and he's going to, right, or with the family, and he's lighting the candles of Shabbat. Even according to the Ashkenazim, he does not accept upon himself Shabbat when he comes and he lights the candles, and therefore, he's allowed to say Mincha afterwards. So this is again, right, a very big machloket in the Acharonim. Obviously, lechatechila, according to everybody, a woman should pray Mincha before Halakat Nerot. But if she cannot, two things. First of all, have in mind that she's not accepting upon herself Shabbat, and also make a tonight that, listen, I'm saying mincha afterwards, even if it is that she would come and do and accept upon herself Shabbat, but she's saying mincha afterwards, and then she would be able to say mincha afterwards according to the halacha brura, even though according to the Ben Ish Chai and the Mishnah Berurah and others, no, she wouldn't be able to. She would only be able to come and pray 2 arvits afterwards.